Hey, what's up guys? It's me, Slepsis, and in today's video, part 8 of the Essentials series, I'm going to be covering a very important part of a simulator game, the pet system. Alright, I'm going to assume that you guys are good at things like tables and are familiar with my data module that I showed in my previous video, but don't worry if you aren't, because I'll be able to help people in my new Discord server, link in the description. I'm not active all the time, but I do check enough to be able to help everyone out, so do go ahead and join. And with that, let's get started. Alright guys, let's start with the data module, and in here we have a simple inventory table that has a separate subsection or subtable of pets, and this is going to be our pet inventory to store our different pets, right? And as you can see, this right here is going to be the key, also kind of like a unique ID or identifier for our pets. So yeah, this is going to be equal to a pet index, and in here this is a table because this allows us to also once we actually implement pets and their data, you can have things like boosts, XP boosts, damage boosts. But yeah, just because I don't want to overcomplicate it, the data for each pet is just going to consist of a pet index. And basically what the pet index is if we look at the pets module here, you can see that we have a table of information about each pet. So you can see that at pet index 1, or just simply index 1, we have a table of information, and it tells us that the name is cat, and it has this asset ID image, which is basically just a thumbnail for the pet, and it has a boost of 1.3, which I won't actually be using, and it has a rarity of common. And then I have two other examples as well, and yeah, there's also two functions at the bottom here. Create pet frame basically just creates the actual frame instance, the GUI frame that's going to be put inside of our inventory GUI. And the create pet data is just a simple function that returns a unique ID and the pet index. And so this is going to be used to create new data and insert that into our pet inventory. So now that we know how pet data and the GUI frame is created, saved, and inserted into our inventory, let's figure out how the code behind our inventory works. Let's start with how the UI is structured. So in here you can see that I have a window screen GUI with a separate frame inside. This is going to hold all of your inventories if you want, but I only have the pet inventory. And if you don't know what a canvas group is, it's basically just the same thing as a frame, except for that it doesn't show anything that is outside of the frame. So if there was a image that went outside of the frame, it would not be shown. And so this is being taken advantage of by me by having a UI list layout, which is just going to lay all of the items in a horizontal list. And then I have a blank space just to have some space to make it look nice, and then the inventory here, which is going to hold the pets in a grid form. So it's going to have 1 pet, 2 pet, 3 pet, 4, and then like that. And then I have the description, which goes outside of the canvas group. So this description frame isn't going to be shown except for when you click on a pet, which then will shrink the inventory, and it's going to reveal the description if it is visible. And so that is how the pet inventory, at least how my pet inventory is structured. You can structure your pet inventory differently, but this is what I did, and this is something you could do as well. But yeah, so now is a good time to explain how the pet system works, or the process of it. So the moment that the player enters the game, it's going to run this set profile function, which creates a replica of this data and links that to the player's user ID. And then immediately after, it's going to be overridden by any previous data that you had in a previous session. And if you did have data before, so basically if you've played the game before, then it's going to loop through your pet's inventory, which is this, and then it's going to create a pet frame, which will be parented to your inventory, and a pet object, which is where all of the behavior is handled. All of the inventory behavior, the pet behavior, or most of the pet behavior. So things like showing the description and hiding the description whenever you press on it, or like auto sorting your inventory. That's also another feature of this, and I'll show you guys that in a second. And yeah, this start function is going to start the actual behavior of everything. Moving on to how the pet module works. Whenever we create a new pet object, it takes in the player, the pet frame, the pet canvas, which is just the canvas GUI, and then the pet index and its unique ID, and then it uses that to create an object with all of those properties, right? And if you don't know how objects in object-oriented programming work, just imagine this as an instance. So you should know what an instance or what an instance is, and this behaves very similarly to an instance, or you can make it behave very similarly to an instance. And so right here is the function to sort the player's inventory, and basically whenever you start the object, it's going to insert the pet object into a table so that it's going to be easy to access all of your pet objects, right? And so after that, it's going to sort the inventory, and this is actually going to take that table of pet objects, and it's going to sort it with table.sort by the object's pet index. And so the greater the pet index will show first, and it's going to utilize the layout order property of UIs. So if I look at a frame here, you can see that it has a layout order, which just describes in a list layout or grid layout, it just describes which is shown first. So the loaded number is going to be shown first, and that's what it's doing. It's changing the layout order after sorting the table. And also this is the second sort that sorts and puts the equipped pets the equipped pets first. So it's going to show the equipped pets first, and then also in order of the pet index. And here where the item button is pressed, or just the item frame for the pet, it's going to check if it was already selected, and if it was, then it's going to deselect. Otherwise, it's going to set the pet selected variable equal to self, which is the pet object, and then it's going to change the description properties, like the description image and description pet name, to be equal to that pet object. And then after that, it's going to show the description frame or hide, depending on whether you clicked off of it or you click onto it. And then it's going to change the equip text to show whether you can unequip or whether you can equip the text. And then for the equip button, whenever the equip button is pressed, it's going to check if the pet selected is actually equal to the object, because the thing is, whenever you have the equip button is part of the description frame, right? And so whenever we're connecting a new function to this event, it's like doing that for every single pet object. So we need to specify, and we need to actually check that it's the pet selected that we're pressing equip on. So if it is, then it's going to check if your pet is actually equipped by using table.find and on the data.pets equipped, which is this. So whenever you equip pets, it's going to put the unique ID inside of there. And so we can check if a pet is equipped by using table.find and seeing if pets equipped actually contains that unique ID. And that's exactly what we do here. And if it is, then it's going to unequip that pet. And remember, self just equals, or self is just equal to the actual pet. So you can see that there's this function here to unequip it, and this function here to equip the pet. And yeah, this will unequip the pet, and if it does not find that the pet is equipped, then it will equip the pet. And so yeah, and the way that the equip pet works is it basically just inserts the ID of the pet object into the pets equipped table. Like I just said, it inserts the ID into the pets equipped table, and afterwards it's going to make sure, or it's going to check if the character exists, and if the character does exist, then it's going to find the pet folder. And in this workspace here, you can see that I have a pet folder, and what happens is when the player joins, it's going to create a folder inside of here with the name of the player, and that's where all of your pets are going to go whenever they're instantiated or spawned. And yeah, you can see that this line, or this if statement, does exactly that. It searches the pet's assets for the actual pet model by looking for the index, and then it's going to clone that pet and parent it to the pet folder, or the player's pet folder. Yeah, that's basically it. And unequip pet does the exact opposite. And yeah, the destroy simply clears the table and destroys the item frame and unequips the pet. And so that is the that's everything of the pet module. And this doesn't really explain the tweening of the pets yet, because that's in a different script that I'm gonna get to next. Okay, so now we know how the behavior actually works, and you can see that right here it's in order of highest index to lowest, and this pet index is some like 28, and then the bear is 4, the cat is 1. You can see that when I equip the cat, it's put in first because it'll have the layout order set to 1. And now to get onto the actual positioning of each pet. So this is the script that actually makes the pets follow, and it's in the starter character scripts. And basically what the script does is it runs a function every single frame after the physics simulation, which is the heartbeat event from the run service. And basically every single frame after physics simulation, it's going to get the number of pets, and then it's going to loop through your pets, and it's going to calculate the position of each pet with I. So I is indexing every pet of your pet folder. So if you had 10 pets, then it would first go to your first pet, and your I would be 1, and then your second pet, your I would be 2, all the way up to the last pet where your I would be 10. And it uses that I to determine which row it should be in, which column it should be in, and then it gives you a C-frame, a new C-frame for the position that the pet should be in. And then that position is the position that your align position and align orientation are going to be set to. I forgot that I didn't show this, but there is a script called pet system in the server script service that basically it creates the player pet folder that I've been talking about, where all your pets go. And more importantly, it clones the align orientation and align position inside of this script into the primary part of that pet. So that's why I mentioned it, because that's what it's referencing here. And also, really importantly, it sets the network owner of the pet to the player, and this basically means that physics performed on the pet is going to be calculated on the client. And this means that whenever the pet is tweened or moved, it's going to be much smoother because it's on the client side, and it's going to be replicated to the server as well. And this just takes load off of the server too. So this is overall, just a really good line. It's just one line and it adds a lot, so I just want to bring that up. Alright, back to what I was on before. This align position and align orientation, you can see that it's not just new C-frame, but for the align orientation, it's also multiplied by some C-frame orientation, and the position is translated by this vector 3, and these two are basically the walk cycle. So basically how this works is you have this if statement here that checks whether the player is moving or the character is moving, and then also the move attribute of the pet has to be equal to false, and that's going to be used as a debounce, as you can see here. Right after, it's going to set the primary parts, it's going to set the move attribute of the primary part to true, so it won't be able to run again and it won't be able to spam the walk cycle. And so you don't actually need to spawn this here, so we can just have this in there like that. And basically we're setting the position change to -1 and the rotation change to -10, and this is like the walk cycle, right? It's moving the pet down 1, and then it's making the pet look down by 10 degrees, and then after this amount of time it's going to change and it's going to move up, and the pet is going to look up a little, and then after another random amount of time between 0.15 and 0.25 it's going to reset, and then the move attribute is going to be set to false again, and so this whole thing can be played again, aka walk cycle, and those values are added onto the origin of the position that they're supposed to be in, or their C-frame that they're supposed to be in. So that is what creates this little this stepping motion that these pets have whenever you walk. Alright guys, that should have pretty much covered all of it, and if you guys would like me to release a hatching system, then make sure to subscribe, join my Discord, and if you're really cool, you can comment how cool I am. Alright guys, that's all for this video, and see you guys next time.